All right. Hello and welcome to today's episode. We're going to talk about the power of love in unity. And this is going to be a bit different and than the normal stuff that I usually produce. And just given everything that happened this weekend, this show is normally it's apolitical, right? We don't talk politics or things like that. But given what happened this weekend with the assassination attempt of Donald Trump, I just this message was just kind of just on my heart, and so basically I'm just gonna start and I'm gonna just let it flow. And my hope is that if you're listening to this or watching this, that you receive something internally. Because what I'm not gonna do is try to confirm any beliefs, right? Like what I firmly believe anytime that we're confronted with anything challenging in life, as opposed to seeing the problem as something to fix, we want to move our attention to the solution we want. And I think for the majority of people in the world, in the United States, in the world, I mean, 'cause this is not just limited to the United States, I truly believe that we want peace, love, and unity. We prefer to live that way. And the issue is that when we focus on problems, then we come up with ways in which we believe they need to be solved and that ways people need to change. And then we believe that that's the only way that we're ever going to achieve it, as opposed to just moving to it. So after the events took place, I was rattled internally for sure for a little while. And I sat and I kind of thought about like what's the best thing for me to do, right? And because in and what I realized is like, you know, the and everyone right now is calling for unity, right? Unity, unite, and all this. And all of that, and I totally support that. I really do. But then my question is, okay, well how? Right? How do you unite with people who you perceive to be the opposite of your beliefs, or people you quote unquote hate, or your enemies, right? Like this is a lot of the narrative out there. And so, how do you do that? Because I absolutely believe that's my goal. I would love unity amongst everyone. And I thought about something when I was in, I really enjoyed studying philosophy when I was in college. And what's interesting is I was in a world religions class, and you would think that the class would be really conflictual because you had a bunch of people who had a bunch of different religions. And I was talking with my professor once, and I was like, you ever worry about like it getting like heated in here, like angry? And he's like, the interesting thing is that the only people who ever seem to attack each other are people of the same religion, right? Fighting over nuances, never like the separate belief systems in general. And I thought that was always fascinating. And so, we unite very easily with people with differences. We do it all the time. We allow people to have their own viewpoints and their own belief systems. And, whether we think they're right or wrong or not, we honor the freedom for them to believe how they believe and not think that they have to be a certain way in order for us to accept them. And that's really at the core of love, right? That's like one of the core founding fundamental principles of love, right? And so love, the way that I believe unity comes about is love. Is not necessarily uniting under your commonalities, although that is powerful, right? We oftentimes, once we start looking at people, we soon realize that we have way more in common than we have in difference, right? And when we unite under commonalities, that's a powerful thing. But love, I think, is misunderstood in Western terminology anyway, because even in Greek, right, in the Greek language, right, there was like six different words for love. And so when we use this word love, we definitely like often think of it as this feeling, right? This romantic feeling often. That's what people usually associate with love, right? But we use it all the time, right? I love my wife and children and I love eating pizza, right? Are those the same thing? Like, obviously not, but it's the same word I'm using. So when we're talking about unity, what I think the way to unity is through love, right? Loving others, right? Not making that conditional, right? Because when we look, like, hate begets hate, love begets love, right? And if you want to receive love, you have to extend it first. And a lot of people have very strict conditions on what that means for them to be able to extend that to people. Or they have emotions they hold on to that block them from extending that. And they think the world or people or a certain group of people needs to be a certain way so that you can extend love. You willingly withhold it. And the way that we will ever move towards unity is for you, like you listening to this right now, right? You get to be the catalyst by the extension of love unconditionally. Is to be able to look at someone who you think needs to be different and say, how can I begin to love that person just the way they are? And when you realize love is one of the most powerful energies that we can experience, and that when you realize that it actually flows out of you, right? What I believe through a very divine power within you, and it flows out and through you, that you as an individual, as an ego, as a personality aren't the one extending love. It naturally flows out of you. It's the ego, the personalities, the ideas, the concepts that we develop and misidentify with that paradoxically block it, right? And you don't think of yourself as this, you have to strip your ego out of this. You realize that you're merely a conduit, a vessel, a something that is expressed through. And when you don't see yourself as an individual, but part of as a collective, you understand that you can be used as a conduit to extend love to anyone in your surrounding, whether they're a completely different political system than you, a race than you, a different sexual orientation than you, a different sports team fan than you, like all the things that we identify with that then we falsely divide upon. Once you realize that those are all concepts that we falsely identify with because we forget who we really are, which is, again, these divine spirit, the spiritual self, right? Self with a capital S, a divine creation. And we're here collectively sharing this experience on this earth at this place and time. And you understand that love can be channeled through you to everyone, and it's not about this person needs to be this way and then I'll be able to love them. It's love them, period, right? Like, my heart breaks for the people that lost their lives, this weekend. And that's just one event that I'm talking about. I'm sure many other things happen that I'm completely. I know other things happen that I'm completely unaware about. My attention has been focused kind of on this one event, and I'm so grateful that this attempt failed, right? But also it's like, like there's an element of my heart breaking for the person who committed this, that thought that this is something that they needed to do. It's like, like the mental health that person was probably really struggling with, and the family of that person, and the families of the people that have been hit, that were killed or injured. I mean, it's like, I just look at the whole situation and my heart breaks. And instead of me falling into anger, right, and then me believing that I know what needs to happen to whatever moving forward, and then doubling down on that and getting angry and channeling it into places that's unhealthy. It's like, what I believe is the best thing for me anyway is to move into today and realize that if I offer the extension of love first, that I'm way more likely to receive it back. If I make that conditional, then it's going to be conditional back. The world is merely going to reflect how I put out. It's going to be a mirror, right? For those of you who ever heard the mirror principle. And while it's totally acceptable and allowable and okay to have all the different emotions that you may have had during an event like this weekend, which one that most of us will probably remember forever. And you'll remember where you were. And it was one of those types of events. And obviously, like, I'm very grateful that, again, President Trump is okay. I really am. I'm so glad that didn't go through, and that he made it out. It's what I realized my job today as an individual is to extend what I want back. And if I want unity, the way to unity is love. The way you unite with someone is you love them and there's no conditions. You think about it, it's not hard. This is not a complicated topic. This doesn't need to have a book written about it for you to understand. It's very direct. It's if love is a natural thing that you can be a conduit for to others, what is it that you individually are putting up as blocks so to prevent that from coming out of you? What are your conditions and how can you start removing those conditions? Because if you do that and you are the first to act, you are the one to say, I put this forward. No conditions. I love my neighbor just because they're there. Do they play the drums at 11:30 at night? Doesn't matter, right? Today, because my end result that I want is unity, is love, is peace, I decide to move to that and put that out. This is how most people go wrong. And anyone that, talks about manifestation, this is like what I think most people really don't get is, see, we get caught up on the mind trying to come up with the how. We get caught up in our minds telling us this is what needs to happen in order to get this result, as opposed to just moving right to the result. When you realize that what you want is always an emotional state, and that you actually have the power within to shift to that state, then you stop trying to meddle in the outside world and control others, right? What you do is you move to that state. So if I say, I want to, and I mean, this is anything, right? So think about, like, a lot of people will endlessly pursue money, right? They'll just, I need to make, I don't know, let's just say $1 million a year, right? A lot of people are really attached emotionally and ego level to that number. The reason they want the $1 million is because they believe it will make them feel a certain way. That's it. If I told you, okay, I'm going to give you $1 million, right? But you're still going to feel like crap. Do you really want it? It's like, no. If I told you, oh, the political party you don't like is going to change and completely conform to your beliefs, but you're still going to be filled with rage, do you really want that? It's like, no. See, the illusion we get trapped in is thinking that the world outside of us, people outside of us, need to be a certain way for us to be in the state we want. So then we focus our energy on trying to control and change and manipulate, as opposed to saying, I'm just going to move to the direct state that I want, which again is peace, which again is love. And I want to express that. If we do that, and we just move to that state and start extending that, we are exponentially going to receive that way more than anything else we could do. It's really hard to be hateful towards someone who's loving towards you. It's almost impossible. Like, the energy of love just melts it almost. And when you decide to be the one to first extend individually, and I mean just in the people in your environment, that's it. That is how we start to unite. We stop trying to change people. We stop trying to make people a certain way. We start trying to get them to believe what we believe. And again, I come back to thinking about how it was in the world of religions class when we had all these people from different religions, and not once did I ever see people of two different religions get disrespectful or hating towards each other. It was always people of the same exact faith fighting over a nuance, and in the pride of I'm right and you need to be this way and you need to think this way. It was the only time things ever got heated, and it was so fascinating. And I look at that, and then it makes me think of the country I live in now, where the commonalities are generally so great, and the things that we divide on are these, while they might be sensitive subjects, there's way more that we have in common than we do that we have as differences. And the message I wanted to say today and to talk about today is simply that I believe one of the best ways unity comes about is love. And I believe the best way to start experiencing love in this world is to extend it. And the best way to do that is to figure out what you're holding on to individually that is preventing you from extending that. And that's what I have to say today. I know this is a bit of a different episode, but I hope this means something to somebody that's listening to it. Hope it benefits you. And with that, I wish you guys a great week as always, great day, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Hey there. So if you enjoyed that video, we've linked up a few more videos that we think you'd find helpful as well. And if you have found this helpful, we'd really appreciate your support by liking and subscribing. And if you're looking for help and guidance, please check out restoredminds.com, as we have several options for you to get started. See you guys soon.